Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1533B, and today's date is March 31st, 2018, and the title of the episode is Operation Bolton Distraction is a Go, Deep State on the Move. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with London Paul. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, so all you need to do is go over to YouTube and type in X22 Report Spotlight. It'll bring you right to the interview. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com site or NewsSentinel.com site. Scroll down a little bit, look over to the right-hand side, and you can play the interview right on the site. Or go to Steemit, that's steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, it looks like it's getting worse and worse for Facebook. It looks like the employees, well, they're furious over the leaked 2016 memo from a top executive seeking to justify the company's relentless growth and questionable data harvesting. VP Andrew Bosworth, one of Facebook CEO's Mark Zuckerberg's most trusted executives, wrote that connecting people is the greater good even if it costs someone a life by exposing someone to bullies. Maybe someone dies in a terrorist attack coordinated on our tools. On Friday, the fallout from Bosworth's leaked memo, following several weeks of outrage over the company's data harvesting practices, well, it has Facebook's employees in an uproar, and it looks like the situation is getting worse and worse. Now, we know from Q that the U.S. government, Trump's administration, was going to target Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, Amazon, and many other platforms because of their links into the intelligence agency. And it looks like Trump is starting in on Amazon right now. Facebook is being investigated by the FTC, and I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon is next. We know that Amazon has been out there by the corporate media saying that they have taken business away from the retailers. Trump is also saying the same thing, using the same tactic that the corporate media has been using for a very long time to explain away why retail has been failing. Now, we know that Amazon did not take all the business away from all the retailers, but Trump is using the same exact tactic that the corporate media has used to basically explain away why retail has been declining so rapidly, why each holiday season has been so bad. Now, of course, they don't explain that it's not just the retailers, brick and mortar stores that are bad, it's also online. Even though Amazon has been building their business and a lot of the business has been going to online, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. But Trump made a point to say that the U.S. Post Office will lose about $1.50 on average for each package it delivers for Amazon. That amounts to billions of dollars, which means it's the taxpayers that are going to have to make up the difference. So you don't think you're paying, but on the back end, you really are paying. And what we're seeing right now is that he's also making a reference to the fake Washington Post. And he went on to say that the failing New York Times reports that the size of the company's lobbying staff has ballooned, and that does not include the fake Washington Post, which is used as a lobbyist and should so register. He went on to say if the post office increased its parcel rates, Amazon's shipping costs would rise by $2.6 billion. This post office scam must stop. Amazon must pay real costs and taxes now. And he's bringing attention to Amazon for a reason. And we know that the intelligence agencies are intertwined within a lot of these companies. We know Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter, they've all been receiving subsidies from the government. And this is what he's really talking about, where the government is propping up these businesses. Now, think about it. Facebook, well, they get a lot of data from you. Google does the same. YouTube does the same. And so does Amazon. Amazon knows your habits, especially with Alexa. Google has their voice-controlled system. And what they are doing right now is they can listen in. They know what's going on in the home. Facebook knows what you're doing. It listens in on your microphone on your iPhone. And all of this is tied into the intelligence agency. And this is why he's going after each and every one of these companies. Plus, He's trying to push the Internet Bill of Rights, where everyone has the right to get on all these platforms and not be shut down or shut out because they don't agree with the establishment. So there's a huge agenda behind all of this, and he is pushing this, just like Q predicted. He predicted this on March 4th. Actually, it wasn't a prediction. They already knew this was going to happen. But this happened back in March 4th. Here we are today, moving into April, and we see it all coming true. We see China right now is furious, and it is ramping up its support for Russia on the Skripal case. We know the UK and the rest of the coalition world that is behind the Western powers, the deep state, they are still pushing their agenda to make it look like Russia poisoned Skripal. Now remember, Yulia is waking up, and if she does talk, if they allow her to get that far, she might tell a completely different story. Now out in the Middle East, we see Turkey is breaking with NATO. They are refusing to expel Russians. So did Greece. So did Austria. And there are certain countries, and China, they're saying, listen, we have no proof of all of this. We don't see what's happening here because you haven't given us any evidence. Once you give us real evidence and you supply the data to Russia and it's investigated properly, then we can make that decision. But that is not happening. It looks like Defense Secretary James Mattis, well, he's offered new details about the U.S. involvement in Saudi Arabia invasion of Yemen, providing specifics about what the U.S. is doing that basically contradicts the long-standing claims of a very limited non-combat involvement. Basically, we've always known this. The United States, the coalition forces are helping Saudi Arabia. We refuel the planes. We're in there doing missions. And of course, Mattis tried to spin this. He's saying that, yes, we do mid-air refueling. It's beneficial for civilians, but this is not helping civilians. What Mattis is doing right now, he's slowly giving out the information of what the U.S. has been doing all along. Remember, Q made a point to say, blue pill, red pill, it's time to wake up. The corporate media is already out there discussing the red pill, and this is how they get the information out there. Remember back with North Korea when they were out there saying, oh, maybe we could have peace talks. Maybe Trump could speak to Kim Jong-un. And that was the first phase of it. The same thing is happening right now. They're pushing a little bit of information out there to let people know what the U.S. has really been doing in Yemen. Saudi Arabia is not pushing the war. It's the deep state. The deep state has been pushing this war in Yemen for quite a while. And we know that they've been targeting civilians. Why? Because the Houthis in Yemen kicked the puppet government out of the country. And to make the people pay for this, they started to bomb that area. And what is happening right now is they're slowly leaking the information of letting everyone know what is really going on in Yemen. Now, out in Syria, we see that France is out there saying, listen, we will help mediate between Turkey and the Kurds. We'll bring in some troops. Of course, Turkey completely rejected this, and they don't want France to do anything. And of course, France is out there. They're trying to basically keep the Kurds intact. We know that Trump has already said that troops will be removed from Syria very, very soon, which we knew that this was going to happen. And right now, France is backpedaling. They're saying that they have no plans to conduct military operations in northern Syria. We're going only after the Islamic State, which we know from the beginning the Islamic State has been supported by France, by the coalition forces. And what is happening here right now is everything is in flux. Trump has already made the announcement. He's already freezed about $200 million in funds that were supposed to be heading towards the Kurd area. This was promised by Rex Tillerson. He just completely stopped that. And what is happening right now is Trump has already informed his advisors about the decision to withdraw from Syria. And some of the advisors saying, oh, we shouldn't do this. And of course, those are the war hawks that want to stay in Syria. But I believe that Trump realizes what is really going on in Syria. And there's no reason for the U.S. to even be there anymore. It makes no sense whatsoever. Russia, Syria, they control about like 96 to 98% of the land inside of Syria right now. And Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, the Islamic State, the paid mercenaries, which are the moderate rebels or the Syrian Democratic Forces, they're all beaten at this point. What we're seeing right now is that the Syrian forces, they have liberated all cities of Syria's East Ghouta. They have stopped the chemical weapons attacks, and all that is said and done, and there's nothing they can do, and there's no reason for the United States to be in there, and of course, it's in violation of international law. Syria and Russia, they are calling for the United States to leave that country. And the world is looking at this situation right now. And we know once the U.S. leaves, France is not going to do anything. Germany's not going to do anything. The U.K. is not going to do anything. They're going to end up leaving also. And what's going to happen is Russia and Syria, they're going to take control of the entire country. And believe me, there's going to be no backwash or blowback of another terrorist group coming in, taking its place. Because what is really happening is these terrorist groups are controlled by, yes, the deep state. They're the ones who created them. They're the ones who funded them. They're the ones who brought them in. By removing the U.S., by removing all access into Syria, it will stop all this. Actually, there's 35,000 refugees that are returning to Deir ez-Zor, returning to Aleppo. Actually, millions of people have already returned to Syria in all the areas which have been liberated already, which tells you something huge. All of this was caused by the deep state. The people didn't want to leave Syria. If they truly wanted to leave Syria, they would have stayed out because Assad is a tyrant. Assad is a dictator. Why would they all voluntarily come back to a dictator? It makes no sense. So the deep state right now, they are on the run. And we know that we're going to have these North Korea peace talks coming up in May. And we can see that the crackdown on all these pedophiles, the sex trafficking, that is coming into the limelight right now. We mentioned that Keith Raniere, he was working with this company called Nexium, and we know that he has been caught, and he is buddy-buddy with the Clintons. I mean, 3 of the March and April Clinton pledges came from Raniere's most high-profile followers, Seagram heiress Claire and Sarah Brofman and Pamela Kafritz, daughter of D.C. A-lister Buffy and Bill Kafritz. President Nancy Salzman and the Bonfman sisters are members of Bill Clinton's charitable organizations, the Clinton Global Initiative. Membership is by invitation only and requires at least $15,000 donation per person for 1 year. So the Clintons are kind of linked to this, and we're going to see that this is a crackdown that is happening very slowly, but it is picking up speed right now, and it seems like it's pointing to Clinton over and over and over and over. Now, I wanted to switch over to Bolton. A lot of people have questions of why Bolton is in this position. And I want to go back to H.R. McMaster, who was the National Security Advisor, and he was completely against having peace with North Korea. He wanted war. He only talked about war. He talked about invading North Korea, invading Syria. He was a warmonger, and he basically was out there continually saying that we've had plans, we're going in, we're going to make a strike. I mean, this is what he was doing. Now, in the background of all this, and we discussed this in detail, where Trump was he was working with China, Russia for peace. Because what we come to find out is that there were deep state factions within North Korea basically hiding out, keeping Kim Jong-un kind of like a hostage, trying to get a war off the ground. They wanted regime change. This is why Kim Jong-un was afraid to leave the country. Well, let's look at what is happening now with Bolton. Now, he's a warmonger. He's a neocon. And he, was out there. He wrote an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal titled "The Legal Case for Striking North Korea." He wanted to have regime change in Iran. He's still talking about that. He was behind the invasion of Iraq. He was behind the blaming of Saddam for 9/11. And he is completely on board with all the lies. I mean, that's just a fact. And people are saying, well, Bolton is put in there because he is part of the war cabinet. Well, let's think about this for a second. Since Trump has been in office, Bolton is going to be the third person to fill the position in less than 2 years. That's very interesting right off the bat. Trump is using these individuals to help his strategy. That's the whole point of all of this. He didn't bring on Bolton to start a war. He brought on Bolton to watch his actions. He brought on Bolton because he knows he's a war hawk. He's a neocon. That he wants to go after Iran. He doesn't like the JCPOA. That's the P5+1 deal. And he knows he could use him. Now, what is happening in Iran? Well, we already know a couple of months ago, they tried to have this regime change in Iran, where they try to get a protest up and running to overthrow the elected leaders in Iran. I mean, they tried to do this in North Korea. It didn't pan out. They tried in China. They tried in Russia. In other countries, they tried it, and it did work. But they tried to do this in Iran. It didn't work out. So who is in Iran? Oh, we have deep state factions. We have deep state factions within Iran. They're hiding out. They're positioned. And we also know that Obama transferred billions and billions of dollars over to Iran once the deal was made. Now, the question is, where did this money go? Why didn't Congress do anything? What is going on here? Well, tracking this money, where it went, this is Bolton's job. He'll be more than happy to do this because he wants to find out where this money went. He doesn't like the deal. And it's very easy to give him this task to find out the real information, because he will find out the information. Trump is watching over him. Believe me, he's not going to. Bolton is not going to say to Trump, hey, let's go to war. McMaster's tried to do it with Trump, shot down every single time. Basically, the funds from Iran deal are now being traced. The factions within Iran are being routed out. You need to keep Bolton the roll hawks. You need to keep these individuals who are taking orders from the deep state. Remember, these are just the mouthpieces. These are the people that are given money. These are the people that are following orders. We have the shadow, non-elected, deep state operatives behind the scenes who function through the puppets. And a lot of these politicians, they are the puppets. And what is happening right now, just like in North Korea, they are basically going after these deep state factions. And Trump is watching, wants to see how these individuals operate, keeping an eye on Bolton. Let him do all the work to trace these funds down, to find out what really happened here, where did the money come from, how was it supplied, find out where these factions are and where was the money given to. And he's going to try to use Bolton to do this. In the meanwhile, behind the scenes, and who is behind Iran? China and Russia. They want the deep state factions out of the country too, just like they did in North Korea. So this move is basically a gigantic distraction. They put Bolton out there. The news media is going to eat it up, just like they ate it up with McMaster's and Trump coming out saying we're going to push the nuclear button, called Kim Jong-un this fat little, war guy, and he called him all these different names. And the corporate media, they ate this up. While they were busy on that, behind the scenes, they were talking peace. They were talking about a strategy to have peace and to get Kim Jong-un on their side and get the deep state out of this area. The same thing is happening in Iran right now, where the Iranian people, 70% of the Iranian population under the age 40, they basically want to join the world. They want a better relationship with the West. The majority want to connect with the rest of the world. They don't want to be isolated like this anymore. And they were being kept isolated because they wanted regime change in Iran. Once again, we're seeing a strategy to keep everyone busy, keep everyone nervous about Bolton, about this war cabinet, while talks are being done behind the scenes. The operations are being done in secret behind the scenes where no one knows what is going on. Now, of course, the deep state, they still have their intelligence. They still have the ability to find out. But I think, just like North Korea, these patriots are going to outsmart the deep state. So the deep state is on the move. They are scrambling. They don't know what to do. And there's nowhere to hide right now. They have no place to hide. Their reign is coming to an end. And each time where they go after North Korea and the deep state factions there, they go after Facebook, they go after Amazon, they go after Twitter, they go after YouTube, Google, they go after the factions in Iran, they pull the troops out of Syria. It is all breaking down for the deep state. And pretty soon, they're going to be powerless. And the corporate media, again, is their mouthpiece. They're going to be lost. They're not going to know what to say after a while. If you notice, North Korea has completely dropped off the radar on the news cycle. I mean, before they were talking about going to war. North Korea had weapons. They're going to hit the United States. They're going to destroy Chicago, Alaska. All that has completely stopped. It's non-existent, really. They're not really talking about how there's peace coming up. They're not playing that up big time, are they? They're kind of laying low at this point. So I wouldn't be surprised if the deep state does try something, because it looks like they have no way out of this except to try an event. Now, it might be in Iran. It might be with North Korea to give it one last try. It might be here in the United States. But there is going to be some type of an event. And it's going to be much larger than the past events, because they're getting to the point where they have nothing else they can do but to push the biggest event they possibly can to distract everyone from what is happening. And if we look at the economic side of all of this, we can see that with everything that Trump is doing with the tariffs, with the reciprocal taxes, with the economy coming down, with the central banks raising rates, with the LIBOR continually moving up in interest rates, the whole system is starting to break apart, rip apart. And with Trump going after these huge tech companies, the FANG stocks are going to take a hit. So if you really put all this together, he's been hitting, and not just him himself, but hitting all of these angles, trying to bring the deep state, the central bank down all at once. And this is what we've been watching play out. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.